Welcome to The Long Haul, the podcast dedicated to empowering small carriers and owner-operators to drive their business forward. I'm your host, Adam Wingfield, bringing you insights from industry leaders, real-world success stories, and strategies to help you navigate the road to profitability. Whether you're just getting started or looking to take your fleet to the next level, this is the show where trucking meets opportunity. So buckle up, it's time to go the distance. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to The Long Haul, the show built for small carriers, owner-operators, and everybody fighting to keep the wheels turning in a tough market. Fuel is up again, another 9-cent jump this week, and that means every mile costs more and every invoice delay hits harder. My guest today knows that world inside and out. Zach Buckner is the Senior Vice President of Sales at OTR Solutions, and he spent nearly a decade helping small fleets manage cash flow, fuel programs, and the kind of financial pressures most folks don't see coming until it's too late. We're going to talk about the journey through the industry. We're going to talk about the truth behind factoring's reputation and what separates a partner who helps you stay alive from one that just talks about it. But before we get started, do me a favor. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Long Haul. And make sure you go to freightwavesplaybook.com to join our newsletter. That's where we break down the numbers and news and all that stuff that actually impacts your bottom line. Zach, good to have you on the show, man. Let's start with your story.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it so much. I love being able to come on here and kind of chat with you a little bit about what's going on in the marketplace and obviously, what we're seeing on a day-to-day for carriers. For myself, like I said, I've been here with OTR Solutions for almost a decade now. Started out, just as a sales exec and not really knowing a whole lot about freight. And as most people say, once you get in, you can't get out. So what I've loved kind of coming up through OTR is just being able to build relationships with these guys. We see oftentimes that unfortunately they're not getting the respect that they're deserving out there. And so being able to build relationships and now coming up on 10 years here, watching some of my guys that I worked with early on that were nervous and figuring it out actually be 10 years also in the business with 5, 10, 20 trucks is really what makes it all worth it at the end of the day. So it allows us to build those friendships, those relationships, and ultimately kind of, have that long-term success together. But yeah, like you said, been here for 10 years, very lucky to have moved up within the company from, sales exec to ultimately manage and leading the sales team as we are today. And then kind of helping kick off and launch the rebirth of our fuel program as we became OTR Solutions a few years ago, and just bringing more and more options to our guys as we get out here.
And the thing is, you go back 10 years, things look different. Like, invoicing looked a little bit different back then, 10 years. The freight environment looks a little different when it came to it. What's changed the most about what you see from the last 10 years, just from the factor side?
Yeah, I would say from the factoring side specifically, when I first started here, factoring was kind of a taboo word out in the industry. Like not a lot of people wanted to do it. Not a lot of people wanted to even entertain it. It was kind of looked down as if you needed the cash flow, you weren't running your business correctly. Today, very different. I think today it has become a necessity. I think the post-COVID era has really proven that out, specifically where, we've had a lot of clients, whether it be, the 1 to 2 truck operation or, 100 to 200 power unit companies that thought they were in a good spot until some customers who have been around for a while started kind of getting a little bit slower to pay and things like that. And maybe got behind on some loans or whatever it may be. And so that's probably the biggest shift that I've seen is early on trying to convince people of factoring is safe. It's not a cash advance sort of, dicey program. It is safe, and we're building a reputation around it. We're doing things differently to nowadays it being, why us versus a competitor, because it is so well known. So it has changed pretty significantly.
And let's be real, smaller carriers are running thinner than ever these days. You even looked at Heartland Express put a release out just a week ago that their operating ratio was over 100 again, which just showed just overall just month over month over month over month taking losses. Fuel's up, right? So we talked about it. Fuel's up 10 cents over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. I think it's sitting at 372 now at the time of this episode. And then you got freight that's inconsistent. Volumes are down. When you're talking about overall freight volumes are down. I'm sure factoring invoices have been impacted by it as well, as far as the invoice amount and the amount of invoices that are actually being submitted. From where you sit, what do you see as the most just pronounced difference year over year in terms of the environment of small carriers that are in the factoring world right now.
Yeah, I think you hit, one of the nails on the head. I mean, the overall average invoice size, I think has taken a significant dip just in the marketplace as a whole. We've certainly seen it. The amount of companies that are coming in that are doing more of the expedite freight, things like that, to just
Hmm.
try to, get by, or even adding that to their fleet that maybe they didn't have before. We've seen that uptick significantly. I think there's a lot more of this, kind of last mile freight that's going on, particularly as some of these larger companies increase delivery dates and those sort of things, and not increase, I'm sorry, but try to cut down on their delivery dates. There's just more and more of that expedite freight that's going on out there, and so once that starts to happen, instead of seeing one truck run everything for the longer distance, you may have multi trucks along the way, or things like that. And so for us, that's what I would say is probably one of the most significant difference recently is the invoice size along the marketplace. And even that's when it starts dragging that down, and you see a lot of newer carriers come in the marketplace and just trying to find freight where they can find it. At the end of the day, I always use the example. It's like if you're running a landscape company, sometimes you just got to get the yard for $10 just to get your
Yeah, to
landscape
get a
up and running.
yard. Yeah.
It's like that, and that's happening, and it's ultimately dragging the overall prices down. And so the guys who have been established are now getting affected by it because they're not getting the same pay they once were, because there's a lot of young guys coming in that are just trying to get in and trying to make the ends meet as well. And sometimes, to your point earlier, you have some of these guys have just been running a loss for the first couple of months just to get relationships built, just
Hmm.
to get that one direct contractor, that one customer, to give them a shot, and to give them consistent freight. And so ultimately that ends up driving the prices down for everybody else. And so I do think it's making it a lot more difficult to, keep your margins where they once were. And it's why it's even more important than ever to be mindful of not only what you pay for factoring, but what you pay for fuel, insurance, all those costs. I mean, all those things have changed significantly over this past year, especially.
And then when you look at factoring and fuel together, that's like almost become a tool of survival, not just a strategic choice. Because you're taking a fuel for the discount because I don't want to put it on my Amex because okay, yeah, you're gonna get points, but I'd rather get I need the immediate justification. I need that immediate reward on investment at that point. So you look at factoring and fuel together, that's becoming more of those tools that work hand in hand together. So like, how do you guys at OTR design programs that don't just keep carriers alive, but you're actually helping them grow? Because there's thousands of factoring companies out there. What differentiates you from that realm?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things that we've rolled out over the last, 2 to 3 years now, especially, is being able to bundle the fuel and factoring program together, right? And so when you come on board for factoring and you choose to also use our fuel card, and we have prepaid, we have credit options, all the above for any size fleet, and then factoring, obviously, we can service any size fleet as well. When you bundle that, we can qualify you for even more substantial savings on the factoring side, with lower rates, reduced fees here or there. And then you add in the fuel savings that you're getting on top of that. For example, let's just say the average factoring rate for a one truck company is, 2.5%, 3%, somewhere there. Call it 2.5. If they factor 10,000 a month in invoices, it's $250. On our fuel card, most people are saving an average of 500 to 600 per truck, right? So ultimately, you end up almost factoring for free, if not getting money back in your pocket when you just look at dollars and cents. What we're trying to educate guys on is too often people are looking at what's just your cents off and what's just your factoring rate, instead of looking at the overall, like, what are you paying at the pump and how much money ends up back in your pocket at the end of the day, at the end of the year. Um, if you run those numbers out, they end up saving a substantial amount of money by bundling those programs together. What we've found is, particularly within the OTR portfolio, those guys stay in business, 60 to 70% longer oftentimes than the guys who just factor
Mhm.
or, use us occasionally or whatever. It's like when you go all the way in and you use us for the services that we can provide, again, you're building those relationships with us to where we can do more things to help you down the road. I mean, we have, our partnerships with insurance companies. So we might be able to offer down payment assistance. We might be able to, just help your business in more ways than one, right? And in a marketplace where your margins are getting thinner, where it's getting harder to find trustworthy partners, we're building more and more of these solutions where you don't have to kind of go and look outside of these four walls. You can come to us and we can factor and we can give you discounts on fuel and we can do X, Y, and Z. And that's what we want to be, because for us, we're in it with our guys. We're only making money if they're making money, and so it does us no good to just kind of remain in that one box of just factoring or one box of fuel or whatever it may be. When we know that these are the resources that are going to make them the most success, that's where we have to lean into.
And you talked about trust, and that's the one word that's really, really big in this industry. And factoring has always carried a stigma. You talked about, like, just 10 years ago, he was like, hey, yeah, nobody was talking about factoring because it was, it wasn't the end thing to do. Now, some of that stigma is earned, right? You got factoring companies out here that help earn that stigma, and some have not. What specifically has OTR done to separate themselves from the hidden fee crowd of factoring companies?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we've done at OTR is we've grown with the technology that the marketplace required, right? Where we got more efficient, more automated, things like that. But we didn't do it in a way to where we lost the employees on the customer service side. A lot of companies we've seen have exponentially grown on the technology side. They've automated invoicing, they've automated X, Y, and Z, but then they do that and they let go of 30 or 40 employees. Right. Mm-hmm. And so then you become no touch with the client and no relationship. And inevitably something will go wrong in trucking, and it'll happen at the most inopportune time.
Yeah.
That's not the time to be automated. That's the time to be able to call and talk to somebody. Mm-hmm. Right. And so for us, we've continued to hire and train at the same levels we ever have, while also ramping up our technology to compete and to stay ahead of the marketplace. With just more and more initiatives that we are rolling out. But for us, it's always remained about the client. It's always remained about the trust and relationships. I mean, we just got back, in this past week or so from going to visit a few clients out in Sacramento, still getting in front of clients face to face, still sending the handwritten letters, still having that relationship one-to-one is what keeps you in business long-term. The automation and the technology can make you a quick buck. And we see a lot of these factoring companies over the last, couple of years, particularly since COVID, that have come in. They've got, a handful of employees. Everything's automated. It's a very low rate. It's very low touch. And then inevitably something goes wrong. And the carrier is ultimately who ends up holding the bag for that. And they get burned and they end up losing a ton of money or going out of business or whatever case may be. And so for us, we're proud to say that we've been around for as long as we have, and we continue to be tried and true in that. And what has never changed and will never change is our dedication to customer service. We still, it's harder these days, but we still, go with a no voicemail system where we're doing everything we can to answer the phone every time somebody calls. And, whether it's in the exact person you're looking for or somebody in another department, somebody's going to answer it and help you. Those are the things that I think are nice to see a company continue to maintain as we also try to scale the technology side. And from somebody like myself, I've been here obviously for 10 years. I'm going to be biased to here, but I see a lot of other companies, and I was with other companies before this, not even necessarily in transportation space. And usually one of those two go, right? You either fall behind on technology and your system gets too old, but you still answer the phone, kind of like the old school mom and pop shop, or you have great customer service and your technology lags behind. So for us to be able to really maintain both of those sides, I think is what has set us apart, and will continue to set us apart as we go forward.
You mentioned, earlier about 24/7 instant funding, which is a new initiative that, you guys are doing now. And it sounds strong, but you know what I'm going to ask. Is it really instant, or is it just marketing language? Is it something that, hey, we talking about 24/7, like 2-3 o'clock in the morning type 24/7, or what we talking?
Yep, we are. So, and I appreciate you asking that, because I do think there are details that need to go into it. And we highlighted on a couple of our videos, but there are details that go into it because a lot of people put those buzzwords out there, and it makes some people skeptical and never hear all the details. So the truth is, yes, with approved customers, once the invoice is submitted, within seconds, it'll be automatically approved and you will be able to catch that out. For example, if you submit 5 invoices, 4 out of 5 may be auto approved, instantly available for you to cash out and put into your account. 1 may need additional review. We might need to look at some paperwork. We might need to make a call with you, and then we approve it. The bulk of invoices are still going to be approved in about an hour and a half, right? So you can still receive your money super fast. But there is a portion of those, and I don't remember the percentage exactly off the top of my head. I want to say it's 30 or 40%. It's on one of our YouTube videos, but that is going to be able to be very instant. And again, that's client by client, customer by customer, who you're working with. But
Sure.
it is going to be for the majority of time. You'll be able to have the access to cash it out. Now you can say, I still, I'll get it tomorrow or whatever. But once you submit the invoice, if it is, ran through the system and automated through, it's going to pop up right within your OTR mobile app and be able to say, basically cash this out. So I do think, you've obviously been in the industry for a long time. And as we've talked about, the marketplace has taken a lot of different shifts over 10 years. We see a lot of folks that, whether it be fuel advances, cash advances, credit, et cetera, are needing their money faster than ever. Whether you choose to take it or not is always still your choice. It's just up to us to give you all of the options possible.
Options.
So, we want to give our carriers the fuel advance option, the cash advance option, all of those things. But also, it's your money. If we can get it verified with the customer as fast as possible, cash it out. You might get half of it today. You might get 3 of the invoices out of 4, like I said. But, you working with us, a lot of times we're going to see majority of those invoices all get paid in the same day, and you're able to immediately deposit them to your account.
The thing is that too, you talked about, and you talk about being the Captain Obvious stuff that I don't want to talk about. We know where the market's at. We know, all that stuff. We know what small carriers are seeing. I could easily go in here and just do those low risk type questions. But what we want to do is we want to have conversations to where the folks that are listening, the owner operators and the carriers, their voices are being heard through this. And we're talking about those things that impact them. And one of those things that many small fleets don't realize is how much money that they're losing, between the pump, factoring fees, and then delays in payment is money that you're losing. Walk us through how OTR's model helps carriers tighten that leak.
Yeah, for sure. So oftentimes when we talk about factoring deals, we've seen all of them. We've seen all the contracts. We've seen the way they're structured. As anything, most people are just offering the lowest rate to get as many carriers to sign up as possible. And it's the credit card game, right? It's 0% interest, and then they're getting you with 25, 30% later. So we see the same thing every day on the factoring side. And so we understand oftentimes we may be more of a value add. We're more of the mid to higher tier on the rate side. Again, we could go through all the details as to why, but ultimately what we're focused on is educating carriers that are coming in the marketplace. Don't just sign with the first flashy thing, whether it be the fuel card that offers you $3 off, which sounds too good to be true. It is. The factoring company that's offering a new authority, one truck operation, 1% factoring. It is too good to be true, right? And so for us, we want to educate these guys on it's not just the factoring rate. You need to look at all the additional fees. What's the contract that you have to get out of? What happens if you don't meet X, Y, and Z requirement? Because what's generally being stuck into these agreements is, you sign on for 1%, 1.5%, and you're a brand new trucking company. Come to find out, they have 10 employees that are processing your invoices and everything's automated. One thing goes wrong with that customer, you're now left holding that bill. So that $3,000 invoice you ran is coming back to you. You now have to go back to that customer, do your own billing and collecting. So then ultimately, what was the point of factoring, right? We're seeing that that's obviously been there for a while. We're seeing, additional fees, and they're under so many different names. It's kind of crazy. It's hard to really keep up with if you're a carrier coming to the marketplace to even know what to look for. I mean, it can be disguised as, an invoice fee. It can be disguised as a transaction fee, a startup fee, whatever they want to do. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is educate. This is what you're going to spend monthly for factoring, right? With us, it could be, $100, could be $250, could be $500, whatever, right? Depending on the size of your company, rate you're on, whatever. That $250, for example, that you might be spending to factor all your invoices is let's just call that a flat 2.5%. Say there's no additional fees whatsoever with it. And you sign up for somebody else at 1.5. Well, then they're hitting you with a $10 invoice fee every time. They're hitting you with an additional, for example, I'll give you one of these factors that has recently come out in the last 2 or 3 years. Very low employee count. very automated. They advertise 1.5%, right? For basically any operation. When you sign up for that, they do factor your invoice at 1.5%. But then you want the money sent to your account, it's an additional 1.5%. Otherwise, you have to send it to a specific, you know, style of bank account that they can, have access to, and they can do X, Y, and Z and X, Y, and Z, right? It's not the thing is that the trust, as we mentioned earlier, is just not being put forward. You're not looking out for the carrier properly. We are rolling out a lot of similar options because carriers might want that. But the key is you have to communicate this is what you're getting with it, right? Like anyone that follows us knows we have a Clutch bank account. It's a business bank account for truckers. You have that. You don't have to send the money there. You can send it to your own bank account. It's an option if you'd like that. There are perks to using that. But like I said, some other factors, you're required to do those types of things. And so you run into additional fees within that account or, bells and whistles here or there that seem exciting in the midst of it. But now all of a sudden you're stuck. You can't get out. You're maybe locked into a contract or whatever case may be. And ultimately your money ends up tied up. And so if you pay 1.5 for factoring, 1.5 to deposit to this account, $50 for this, you're paying $400 that month when all along we were $250. Right. And that's just within the factoring side. I mean, and then for us, as we add on the fuel card, a lot of companies, again, are advertising $1.50, $2 off, $2.50 off, whatever case may be. We have those same stations. Yes, some of them are $2 off in particular states where fuel is $5 and $6 a gallon.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
That happens, right? But you can't advertise our best discount. You have to advertise average discount across all 50, right? That way you can have a better indicator of where somebody can really compete and really help your business. For us, we're tying in our average discount with a competitive factoring rate and ultimately putting money back in your pocket if you're doing it correctly. I mean, I've got a box truck client that recently came on in the last month or so. He ran 1,200 gallons in his first month. He saved $878. Right? Real life examples. And that's, nobody can balk at that. That is a box truck that's coming new in the marketplace and has been able to find a bucket of freight that he's able to run, and he's just staying on the road. He's hustling. He's losing on some and winning on some, right?
Right.
But he's just staying going. We're seeing that really of all spaces, from the one truck guy to 10, 20, 30 trucks that we're able to compete on. We've got a guy I just spoke with a week ago is he's factoring 300,000-400,000 a month in invoices. He was still using Amex. He gives all of his drivers an Amex, part of his account, which is such a risk and a liability for him and his personal business account and all of that. We were able to get him set up on the fuel card. He's ultimately going to save. And a lot of times, as you mentioned earlier with Amex, I want the cash back and the rewards and the points. But those rewards and points are not adding anywhere up to what fuel savings would be.
Correct.
Right. I mean, if you're talking about saving 50 cents a gallon, it starts to get pretty substantial pretty quick. I mean, it's kind of mind blowing. And a lot of it's just scared of change, been burned in the past, maybe had a program that, again, the same thing on the fuel side. They advertise this discount, but then they get nickel and dime with transaction fees, and it ends up washing away. Now you're saving 10 cents when you thought you were getting 50. So for us, the hardest thing in a marketplace where everything is driven by who's got the lowest price or who's got the highest, flashiest discount is being honest. If we didn't want to be honest, we could probably bring on a lot more carriers, honestly, but then we end up with bad reviews and bad, customer service and things like that, but it's not who we are. And so, we just see a lot of folks, man, they get kind of duped in by the flashy signal at the beginning. And then we're in the boat with them of trying to get them out of a factoring contract or transition their fuel card and move everybody over. But if you got 10, 15 trucks running all with cards, now you got to get all the guys back home, get all new cards, reestablished, stuff like that. So, we've got mobile apps and mobile cards and things like that, ways that we can try to help mitigate those things. But for us, we understand it's just a handhold process. It may take us a few months to transition together, but if we can get somebody out of the weeds, and help them stay in business longer, that's what we're going to try to do.
So you've been talking about the move towards complete financial solutions. And that's one of the things that, I could see that your OTR Well, when it transitioned from the OTR Capital to OTR Solutions, it really kind of just wanted to morph into that complete financial solutions. You talked about, I saw your clutch bank account, I saw the fuel card. So it looks like OTR is moving towards more of a complete total financial solutions. What does that really mean for a small fleet? And I'm not talking about just like, okay, having everything on one house. What about the ones that think that is it convenience? Is it consolidation? Is it about control? Like, what's the direction?
Yeah, it's about driving success for the carrier is the core of it, right? And helping them to stay in business longer. I mean, like I said, within our portfolio of the data we're able to go through, the folks who use multiple solutions, fuel factoring, clutch bank account, insurance, et cetera, work with us on multiple facets. They tend to stay in business longer. Now, that could be because they've just bought into working with us. And so they say, we're going to work with you on everything. What I think is important about, what you were mentioning with, what's really the plan behind the plan here is with a lot of companies, when they roll out these things, they mandate that everyone use it, right? If you're with certain factoring companies, you have to use their fuel card
Hmm.
to get X, Y, and Z, maybe to get, certain rates or certain advances or certain programs or whatever. You have to use this certain bank account to get the rate that we're advertising, but yet they're advertising it to the whole marketplace, right? For us, you come on board with us for factoring, you can choose, think of it as an add to cart scenario.
Hmm.
The more you add to the cart, sure, you'll save more and have more solutions and more benefits that we think can help you set up for success. But if you don't need the bank account, then don't get it.
Yeah,
If you
sure.
have a great fuel program, then don't use ours. That's
Hmm.
okay too. I tell people all the time, man, if you have a great program and you run locally and you don't really need me, then keep doing what you're doing. Because I can't honestly say that I'm going to be able to help your business, then why would I try to convince you to sign up with me, right? And that's how we, I've been obviously here for a long time. I've been in the sales team for a long time and training salespeople. That's how we train our salespeople. If you can't help them, then be a friend to them, stay in touch with them. At some point, something may change, right? Somebody who didn't need to factor 2 years ago does today. Somebody who had a great fuel program got burned in some way needs ours today. That's okay. It doesn't mean that it's no. It means it's just not right now. So we'll stay in touch. You have our information, but again, with us being built around helping the new carrier come in the marketplace who's nervous and doesn't really know what to do and know where to look, we want to be the place where when you contact us, you can kind of take a sigh of relief and say, okay, I'm done looking. I don't have to go and I don't have to go to, whatever bank locally and set up my bank account. This place will help me set it up. I don't have to go over here and figure out my insurance thing. They've got a partner for that. I don't have to go, so on and so forth. So that's kind of you could have the assembly line theory, but like we want to walk you through the store and say, do you want this? Do you need it? Great. Let's add it into the cart. If not, just keep walking. That's okay.
Yeah.
It'll still
Yeah.
be here on the shelf in 6 months if you come back and say, I need to use the fuel card.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
those are the things. And for us, we're publicizing that info to our clients on a daily basis of, you know, you could have saved this much. You could have done these things. If they choose to use it, then they're welcome to. Otherwise, ignore the email. We're not going to, it's not a requirement within our
Right.
contract that you got to use it to factor with us. So you got to use it to do X, Y, and Z. Right. And so we want to just use it as a resource to help them.
No, it makes sense. And there's been a flood of new fintech startups in the space. We talked about it. You see them everywhere where they're promoting rate, right? Because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, when it comes down to bad markets such as this, bottom line matters. Most promise the automation piece. They talk about all of that, all the funny things that you mentioned, and few of them really deliver just accountability when it comes about it. What's your read on where this market, as far as like just factoring companies, where do you feel like it's headed, and how do you plan to keep OTR in the trust column?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's headed more and more towards the automated AI technology space. And I say that not scared of that space and not that we won't use some of those tools to make us better, but in a way that says, I'm nervous for the trucking companies coming into the marketplace in 6 months from now. that are getting signed up for factoring that is a 1% rate, and they can't get anyone on the phone and they have an issue. And, for, someone like yourself who's obviously spoken to a ton of truck drivers, just like any of us, sometimes you just need somebody to be on the phone with you and walk you through it,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you need to be able to get in touch with someone, and you can't have thousands of clients and only 4 employees capable of answering the phone.
Yeah.
Inevitably, something will go awry. And so I'm excited, but I'm nervous because I see what we're doing here, and I see, even what some of our competitors are doing that we, work well with, and that we trust, that have been around for a long time as well, that they're going to do right by the carrier. I'm excited about those things that I see for making carriers' lives easier, like truly instant funding. If you want it, it's there. If you need the bank account, it's here, right? Those things are technology based. They will make your life easier in the long run. I'm nervous about what I've seen small versions of, which is these fly by night companies that are starting up. They don't know trucking, they don't know the space, and they're advertising the world to these guys to get a quick
Hmm.
bite to then ultimately sell their company, you know, a few years down the road. And whatever happens, happens. That's what I'm nervous about for the trucking company that gets into that space and has no idea that maybe they were duped, or what they thought they were getting into wasn't the case. And so it's the same thing with uh, fuel. We see the same thing on fuel. People are advertising credit. It's not credit. It's basically advances with a bunch of fees and things like that. And so it just, yeah, I'm excited, but I'm nervous.
So nervous. Yeah.
That the guy who's coming in who doesn't have the knowledge and education yet, because so many folks are coming in and their buddy told them to go buy a truck, so they just went and bought one and they started an authority.
Hmm.
And then it's kind of like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
We've always
Yeah.
taken pride and joy in getting that guy on the phone and walking them through and saying, again, let's walk through the store and let's pick out the best items for you. Okay, you don't want that, you've got that figured out. Okay, perfect, and move along. I'm nervous for the fact that somebody's going to just sign that person up in 2 minutes via a mobile app, having
Hmm.
never spoke to them, and now they're going to be locked into some sort of contract that's impossible to get out of. Um, and we've seen it, so that's what makes me nervous about it. We've seen folks get that, have to start their business over, open new MCs or whatever case may be, run under somebody else, things like that. So, it's just like we probably all are in the real world. We're all excited about AI, but we're also
Yeah.
nervous as to what it can be.
Of
It's the
course.
same excitement and optimism, but we gotta play smart with it ultimately.
So, the industry loves buzzwords, whether it be transparency, partnerships, reliability, relationships, all that stuff. And, it's all great. But here's what I'm gonna say. You've got the mic, you've got the floor right now, you've got the full screen here in a second to really speak directly to the audience in regards to one thing that OTR is doing behind the scenes that actually proves that those worlds are real in you guys' world. It's your go.
I think what we're doing that's real is building relationships. By building relationships, knowing our carriers, knowing their families, knowing what's important to them, because we're on the phone with them, because we're going to visit them in person, because we're not just hiding behind the great technology that we have, and we're still stepping forward and being present in their life, I think allows us to stand behind the words of transparency and trust. We always say, and as you mentioned, buzzwords, we always say, check our Google reviews, right? Yes, lean on the reviews. Um, those are real people. Those are real life examples. If you don't believe that, you probably know somebody in the space that has worked with us before. Give them a call. Um, Outside of that, I would say give us a try, because at the end of the day, I can say all of the buzzwords in the world and I can say and promise all of the things. But until you have a real conversation with a real person that you're going to find out understands trucking on the phone, you don't find that by signing up through a mobile app, and you don't find it by signing up through a website. You speak to one of our real live salespeople that have had all the training in the world, that most of them have now been in the industry for several years. Speak with one of them and see if they're not pointing you in the direction of trying to help your business. They're not just trying to sign you up for one solution. They're trying to say, hey, you know, how can we help you find freight? What are you struggling with right now? When do you think you're going to hit the road? What, you know, were you trying to find tires? You're trying to find trucks, et cetera. What can we do to help you? Because we know if you're not in business, we're not in business. So for us, I would say speak to a real human on the phone, build a real relationship with people. And ultimately, if we really care about the success of the carrier at the core of it, then the trust and transparency becomes inevitable.
So if you had to give one hard truth to small carriers managing cash flow from a factoring perspective, what you see right now, and I'm sure that you guys get all the stories, you get the carriers that have engine issues and they're looking for advances or, hey, we want to add a truck, but we can't afford the insurance down payment. So from the factoring side, specifically from you guys' lens, what would be that one hard truth when it comes down to talking to small carriers about cash flow?
Yep. I would say the number one rule I give you is don't go with the lowest rate because you will regret it. Secondly, I would say be patient. Um, a lot of newer guys coming out, they've spent a ton of money buying the truck, paying the insurance, et cetera. They immediately want fuel credit, for example,
Mhm,
when they factor with us. If that's the case, we often see they miss those fuel bills pretty quickly,
mhm,
right? So use a prepaid card, get your budgeting in order, right? Work with someone to help you with the accounting piece of that. If you're not on top of those dollars and cents, they're going to disappear very quickly.
mhm.
Um, and then the last thing I would say would be get out and run as hard as possible. As we said at the beginning of the show, you're going to have to cut some yards for $10 to $20 to just get your name out there, right? Not enough people know you. If you just keep sitting and waiting and saying, I got to wait till these freight rates improve, or I got to wait, I got to wait, I got to wait. There's a lot of us that have been waiting now for a year or two for them to improve,
Yeah.
right? I think the hard truth is get out, outwork everybody. Don't go with the flashy item up front and be slow and patient in kind of your building process, right? Build good relationships with your factoring company, good relationships with customers so that they can trust you. Just like delivering freight, it's not about going as fast as possible to get there. It's about who can do it at the right amount of time and deliver it correctly so there are no issues on the back end. That's ultimately what our kind of calling card is here is like we're going to do it on the front end correctly so you don't have the issues on the back end as well, whether it be how you invoice, working with the customer, et cetera. So that's what I would say, man, is we see so many folks getting set up today. They pay for their insurance, they get their authority, and then they just sit and they don't know where to find freight. And whether it be, the truck's this issue or, it could be excuses, it could be nervousness, it could be whatever. Some of it is let's just get out. You got to just get out and run and
Yeah.
start taking some loads wherever. And just, you don't know if that one load that's a little bit under, what you thought you were going to get for it could be the relationship where you just got somebody to trust you and now they're going to actually pay you more for it. Right. If you don't get out and run, it's going to be hard to find. And we see so much of that right now where people are just waiting on the market to improve. I'm going to wait till November. I'm going to wait till the first of the year.
Mhm.
And I'm going to wait till 4th of July. I mean, it's been happening all year. So, get out, get ready to run, have a good plan for, keeping up with the financials. Like I said, because if you just always think, oh, I only pay 1% for factoring. Oh, I get a $2 fuel discount. You're probably losing money pretty significantly because there's a
And
lot of stuff hidden in there that you're just not accounting for. And it's the age. I mean, it's just what me and you would go through, right? Oh, I only pay for these subscriptions. You don't realize you go to Starbucks every day, and it starts to add up, right? So you got to be mindful of all the little things because you start to add up pretty quickly, especially as a new startup business.
and the thing is that as we close out, the most important thing is that you talked about it throughout the show. Just because it's there, it's an option. It doesn't mean necessarily that you have to take advantage of it. Just use it to your discretion, but make sure you have discretion because we may not be the cheapest. You might already have a better option. We may not offer the best solution, but use your own diligence when it comes down to identifying what works best for you and your business. So I appreciate you really kind of being honest and open and having that dialogue about that because There is so many different solutions out here that it muddles the water, and then all of a sudden it's just about rate. And at the end of the day, that's what it really kind of boils down to. And we don't want necessarily to go with that, from a global standpoint. We want to make sure that the best decision is made for your business.
Exactly. And, that's one thing that we have always taken pride in is that, whether it's factoring or the fuel side, you send us, a copy of what you're in. We'll help you evaluate and see what your options are, to get out, to transition. Like I said, if you're in a great program that doesn't have any issues, there's no harm in evaluating it.
Yeah.
It's okay if you're with us and you evaluate it, right? And let us know if you spot something out there, and then come back to us and say, hey, is this something you guys can do? We want to know that. Maybe there's a new technology or a new, solution out there that we need to venture into that's important to our carriers. So anyone that's with a factoring company today or with a fuel program today, and you just want to evaluate it, get in touch with us. We'll help you evaluate what you have today. If we can help you, we can give you a better program, then wonderful. Then your options are in front of you. You can stay put or you can take this option. If you have something great, our team's going to say, just stay put. It's okay. Because we can't help you. And ultimately you moving over, you're going to be upset with me that you moved over. You left something good for not as good. Right. So typically we feel confident we can compete with most things, but there are going to be times that somebody has something great that's perfectly set for them. Maybe you only run in certain areas. Maybe we don't have great, stations in that area with a great discount. Right? Maybe we do 2 states over, but if you don't run there, it's no benefit to you.
Sure.
Right? That's what we want to do to really help our guys out.
Well, that really brings us to the close of today's message, was really just making sure that you understand your options, making sure that you're managing the decisions that you make, and ultimately, do what's best for your business. So, Zach, I appreciate you sitting down for this one. Every time we talk about money in this business, somebody gets uncomfortable, but obviously that's where the growth happens. For everyone listening, remember this: factoring and fuel programs just aren't transactions. They're partnerships that either protect your business or it's going to drain it. So if you don't understand where your money is going, you're already behind. Big thanks to Zach Buckner and the team over at OTR Solutions for being willing to have a real conversation about it. And if you got any value from today's show, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to The Long Haul. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, where we have our deep dives, the charts, the breakdowns that make sense for small carriers at www.freightwavesplaybook.com. I'm Adam Wingfield. This is The Long Haul. Keep your numbers tight, keep them relationships honest, and most importantly, man, keep your trucks on the road. Thank you for joining us today, Zach. Again, always a pleasure to have our OTR family sit down and talk to us directly about it. So we appreciate you as well.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you putting together kind of an honest forum for these guys to just be able to pick our brains and to just understand, where we're coming from, and obviously, hopefully see that we understand where they're coming from as well. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, that's it for today's episode of The Long Haul. Take care, and we'll see you soon.